Guys, can somebody send...
What's up, everyone? Welcome into Boxing Scene. Today, Chris Algieri here in studio at the Pro Box TV studios with Paulie Malignaggi, and we're joined by Steven Breadman Edwards via Zoom. Brad, thanks for joining us. How are you today?
I'm good. How you guys doing?
Excellent. You already in the gym this morning?
Early, man. We went and ran this morning, and I gave him off the rest of the day.
Ah, nice. Track work or just street work today?
Track work.
Nice. Good stuff.
I have a kid that's fighting on the Zone May 29th. So he's 14-0 with 13 KOs. He's trying to get ready. So it's important.
What weight is he?
160. His name is Iran Peterson.
Nice.
Oh yeah. We know him. Yeah, he's coming up, man. He's been on a nice little run. He kills on social media. He's hilarious, man. Yeah. He's very fun. Yeah, we ran into him in Philly.
Oh yeah,
fight card in Philly. Yeah.
Okay, nice one.
Promoter's been reaching out to me. He already has 100,000 followers on social media.
He's been
14-0, 13 KO record with 100,000 followers. Man.
Yeah, he's been killing it.
It
grew really recently. Like he's really come up. He's he had videos with Caleb Plant and Sebastian Fedora, Keith Thurman. Yeah, I follow him pretty closely.
I was trying to get him signed with ProBox.
Yeah, let's go.
When I say his name again, so people at home hear it.
Iran JYD Peterson.
Ivan Peterson. JYD.
Iran.
Oh, Iran, like the country. Iran Peterson.
Spelled differently, but yeah.
Like the and JYD, like the junkyard dog.
You got it.
Yeah.
There you go.
My God.
Everybody listening in at home, guys, send in your questions to the chat. We're going to do a mailbag at the end of the show today. So if you have some good questions, send them in, and we will answer them, Paulie and I, on air live. So get those in there. But, guys, we got top stories today. We got an interesting one here. Teofimo Lopez. We got some news from him. You haven't heard much about him, since his loss to Shakur Stevenson back in January. But it looks like Lindolfo Delgado is up for the vacant 140-pound title, and they have the IBF has established that they want to fight Teofimo Lopez versus Lindolfo Delgado, former two-division world champion.
God forbid Oscar Duarte would get the shot, right?
Oscar Duarte's fighting
the guy
Fierro.
that lost every second of every round against in his last fight, right? Instead of giving Duarte
We'll
the
get
shot.
into that in a moment. Former two-division world champion Teofimo Lopez has been informed that he is next in line to face Lindolfo Delgado for the vacant IBF junior welterweight 140-pound title, which is given up by Richardson Hitchins recently, who said he's going to move up to 140. He also signed with Zuffa, 47, excuse me. He also signed with Zuffa. So this opened up that IBF title, which, to your point, champ, Oscar Duarte was in line to fight Hitchins for. And then literally hours before the fight was supposed to happen, Hitchins fell ill and pulled out of the fight. So poor Duarte was completely looked over, and Delgado stepped into the position. Wow. But also Oscar Duarte and Lindolfo Delgado are both trained by Robert Garcia, and said they're going to try and go different routes so they don't have to fight each other right away. That might be one down the line. But in the meantime, we got Lindolfo Delgado versus Teofimo Lopez. I don't dislike this matchup at all. I think Teofimo Lopez is a fantastic fighter. Coming off a loss, going into world title fights, one thing, but Delgado's undefeated. Brad, what do you think about this matchup being ordered by the IBF?
I like it. The IBF kind of, they stick with their mandatory, so you gotta respect that in the world of boxing, because a lot of times guys can be mandatories for years and not get title shots. But I don't hate the fight, and I don't have a problem with Teofimo Lopez getting a title shot coming off a loss. He's an elite fighter. He lost to a great fighter in Shakur Stevenson. Shakur Stevenson will beat a lot of guys, so I don't have a problem with him getting a title shot coming off of now, if he gets 2 back-to-back title shots coming off of 2 straight title losses is one thing, but 1 title shot coming off a loss for a vacant title, I don't have a problem with that.
Okay, so I'm gonna make a couple of points, Coach Brad. You know what? I don't have a problem with Teofimo getting a shot either. I do have a problem with Duarte getting a shot off the loss. Fine, it's Teofimo Lopez. I do have a problem with Duarte being completely skipped over after he's been on a roll, and he deserves better.
That's a different point, though, Paulie.
He deserves better. Now, the comments, and this is why our comments are so awesome. Apparently, were you invited to DC for this thing for
that's happening.
They reached out to me 2 last minute. I'm in camp, so I couldn't go. But I said if there's anything to sign, I will. And there's some comments in the comment section. Granted, I'm going off topic here. I know, guys, but this thing is happening.
This is live, and this
is live, and guys in the chat, I love you for this. So somebody I read. I got to find the comment. Somebody said Nick Khan's points weren't really that convincing. So I guess it was back and forth. And they said Nico Ali Walsh made some great comments. Now I was told when I was reached out to the Oscar De La Hoya, Nico Ali Walsh, Mauricio Sulman, we're going to go to DC and go to bat for the Ali Act. And they wanted to see if I could go. Again, I'm in camp the last 2 weeks. It's hard for me to leave camp at this point. I got to do it enough when I'm commentating in fights, let alone for other stuff. But so one of the comments said Nick Khan's points weren't that convincing. I guess one side was the opposite. Can you imagine the whole boxing industry in Zuffa, and Zuffa still takes a stand against the whole boxing industry? Like, can you imagine, bro? Like, how much more of an enemy do you want to make yourself? Like, look, you go to Congress, you go to Senate, you sit down and go head to head to challenge the Ali Act, which the rest of the business is trying to keep, and you have no problem. And then you wonder, yeah, what we're gonna do? They're gonna love us. We're just gonna go in here. Like, it's literally like a hostile takeover. It's literally, I mean, it's literally right in front of you. It's a hostile takeover, essentially. So I don't know what comes of this, guys. In the comments, if you have any more updates, thank you for the updates you guys put in, because I totally forgot about it until I saw these comments. But Brett, I don't know if you got any tidbits you want to say on this, but no, I think it's very important. It was a very important. Donnie 856 says Khan did the best. Walsh second, Oscar third. Okay, so
in situations like this, I just would like for somebody to speak on behalf of boxing.
Yeah, well,
that's going to really speak on behalf of boxing. I don't know who.
Well, that's the problem, Brad. Yeah. You got one side who's trying to, the hostile takeover of boxing is going to pretend they're going to speak on the behalf of boxing. You know how it is. Takeovers are saying, when you win the war, you can make like you fought for everybody's best interest because you won the war. Nobody. But in reality, both sides have the interest. Whatever interest they have, right? You would like to believe there's
this is something that our friend Teddy Atlas used to always talk about. Boxing is ununified. We're so fractured. We don't have anyone to speak for us. And just exactly to your point, Brad.
Right now, it's basically the Zuffa crew against.
Yeah, but no, I mean the side that's going to be going against the Zuffa crew to speak out against something like this. We're fractured amongst our own ranks, let alone going against anything else. So if you're trying to keep the Ali Act, who's speaking for us? Mm-hmm. Apparently, Oscar went. Nico Ali Walsh created some kind of group. I'm not sure who's involved with that.
Well, Nico. I mean, the Ali Act is named.
His name is on it.
His name is on it. Essentially, he's the grandson, right? But it's not just about what's his name is on, because you can't. If you taint it more than it's already tainted, because for me the Ali Act needed more teeth. It doesn't need less teeth. So if you taint it more, I mean, yeah, it kind of looks bad in general because you're putting Ali's name on it in general, right? So,
you know what's funny is that a couple of years ago, a lot of fighters probably would have fought against the Ali Act to make it better, and now they're defending something that's not as good as it should be.
Because again, we've gone over it. You can take somebody to court at least on behalf of the Ali Act that exists right now. Once you change it, you can't even take somebody to court. If you're making $100 million and you only give me $1 million and I'm the main event generating that $100 million, I don't have a say anyway. That's what UFC fight. That's the problem UFC fighters have. If they're the ones generating the $100 million. Doesn't matter, buddy. You're going to get this $1 million, take it or leave it, and get out of here.
The complication, though, still comes up because the UFC, and this is the model that obviously the Zuffa is looking to go after, they still got sued for hundreds of millions of dollars for anti-monopoly practices. So I don't understand how this being changed is going to offset that as well, because that's always a possibility. Regardless, I think everything needs to, I don't know what the fix is. I don't know what kind of legislation we need. I don't know who can put it together.
I would rather keep it the way it is than get rid of it altogether. And then maybe you can work on it, giving it more teeth little by little. But at least if you get rid of it, you definitely can't work on giving it more teeth if you get rid of it. That's for sure.
Who would fight to have it have more teeth? Fighters would, but the promoters don't want it either. Yeah,
the promoters is kind of like this middle balance, right? But at least, like I said, it has given. We've seen guys, and you've used it yourself to your advantage in your court cases. So it gives you a little bit of pull if you're a fighter, to be able to at least fight on behalf of your rights, which MMA guys don't have. The MMA guys don't have any rights at all when it comes to being able to fight for what they generate. And bro, I'll tell you, MMA generates more than boxing. So if these guys have the Ali Act in MMA, think about what a lot of these MMA fighters, not all of them, but a lot of these MMA fighters could be generating and making for their own pocket if this Ali Act existed.
Yeah. Well, let's get back to the task at hand here with Teofimo Lopez and this fight with Lindolfo Delgado. Lindolfo Delgado is a guy that I called a bunch of his fights on undercards for Top Rank. I believe he's 31 years old. He's a guy that I saw, and Brett, you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. I watched him come up, and he was not getting his shot, and he seemed to me like he was getting a little bit stale. His performances in the last couple fights weren't what were expected. You know how Top Rank is. If you're not performing, they're going to look over you or cut you. But he's undefeated. He had a high ranking everywhere. Had a couple like split decision, majority decision, split decision. Had fights that were tougher than they really should have been or were expected to be. So he was a guy that looked to me like he was getting a little bit stale, just waiting for his title opportunity. But now he's getting it. He's getting against a guy, Teofimo Lopez, who is supremely talented. He's a fantastic fighter. Even though he got shut out by Shakur, but that's Shakur. Shakur shuts out great fighters. This is a great opportunity for both these guys. One, Teofimo Lopez to get back in the win column, beating an undefeated guy, especially if he can do it spectacularly, which we've seen him do in the past. And Lindolfo Delgado, who, even though he may have gotten a little bit stale waiting for his title effect, is fighting a guy coming off a loss who has been a little bit exposed and psyche could be a little bit affected. How do you feel about these guys in their situation going against each other here?
I want to see a little bit more Delgado, but I do agree with you. He did get a little bit stale. But sometimes, Chris, that works two ways. Sometimes when the guy does get his shot, he elevates his game, and then sometimes he shows us why he really got stale. So I'm curious to see, because although Teofimo Lopez is a supreme talent, he is coming off of a loss, and he may have some confidence issues, and he's a little bit, mentally sometimes he can be a little bit inconsistent. So if there was a time to catch him, this will be the time. But honestly speaking, Teofimo Lopez usually handles this level of guy. Yeah. He usually can handle this level.
Yeah, but sometimes he underperforms against his level too.
Yeah,
right?
Sometimes he shows up to the but even when he shows up to their level, he still beats them.
Let me ask you guys this: do you guys think that Delgado is better than Arnold Barboza?
I don't.
No, I don't.
Me neither.
I think Barboza is good. I think Barboza is good.
Hey, Chris and Paulie, I think Barboza is really good.
Yeah, I was very impressed with him in his last fight.
That was a fantastic performance by Teo against Barboza.
And Teofimo Lopez beat Barboza.
Yep.
Because Barboza can really fight, man.
And Barboza rebounded well in his last fight. Yep.
Yes, he has an all-around game. He has good balance. He's not the biggest puncher, but he's the kind of guy that could really cause a lot of guys problems. And I think he's better than Delgado. So we got to see.
I got to go back to the comments.
Good point.
I know I'm going back and forth here, but you guys keep me flying here. Nobody had issues with Al Haymon abusing the Ali Act. You're also shook from this reality that you won't even talk about. I'll talk about it. I'll tell you what Al Haymon was doing. Al Haymon was paying you, and then on the side, he was paying you double. All right? That's why nobody had an issue with it. He wasn't fighting the Ali Act. He was paying you more than what you probably deserved. Okay, so we're not going to have a problem with a guy overpaying us, and then on top of it, not fighting the Ali Act. Granted, okay, the Ali Act wasn't disclosed the way it is. It needs more teeth. You want to take Al Haymon to court when he's paying? He's paying. If you took Al Haymon to court for the Ali Act, you would have lost money, you moron, because the guy was paying you more than what you were generating on the Ali Act. Think, McFly. Think.
Hey, Paulie.
Because I really, like, sometimes they're really smart in the comments, and once in a while you get a complete idiot that I feel stupid of reading his comments because I feel like I got dumber from having read it, Especially when I know the tidbits they don't know, because I lived it.
I'm glad you said that, because I get attacked about Al Haymon so much, and I answered the question exactly how you answered it. Why would you take a guy to court that's paying your fighters?
You're gonna find out.
Higher than the market value with the worth.
You're gonna find out. You got to give him money back if you go and took him to court.
I tell people, I'm like, listen, take your personal feelings out of it. It's not about who you like or who you don't like. It's about what's right and what's wrong. You're not going to have a problem with the man paying you and your fighters above market value.
Brett, for me, I call things like I see them. Sometimes it's pros, sometimes it's cons. With PBC, I don't like that they make mismatches. I've had my comments about that too. But there's also times where you defend it and go against it, because I call it down the middle. Well, my view is of down the middle. In this, you talk about the financial situation with PBC and Al Haymon. You want me to work about the Ali Act with that? If you took Al Haymon to court over the Ali Act, you would lose money. They would be like, buddy, you got to give this money back. You know what I mean? Like you have to be a moron. And that's why these people in the comments that give these things, it's like, bro, just stop it.
Well, it's people.
Don't waste your fingers typing.
I love the people who talk like they're.
But I do love the comments, because they bring out some really good comments. Like some of the comments, I would have forgot about this thing in the Senate today if it wasn't for the comments. So I appreciate you guys. And you guys, it's love hate.
Well, guys, they like to talk like they're experts, and they're not. Boxing is the most nuanced business there
possibly is. Berg says
everything.
So it's right for Haymon.
If you've never been in there,
so it's right for Haymon to steal hundreds of millions from Mayweather. You don't know that. You're going to court now. now. I don't know what's between Mayweather and Haymon. You don't know that either, because there's the situation with Mayweather and Haymon is so nuanced. And I was in those rooms when Mayweather was fighting at Showtime. Mayweather was more than happy making hundreds of millions with Haymon. So I don't know what's going on there. Okay, so and neither do you, for example. Okay, we just know what's he said, she said, but we know what everybody else was getting, and we know what the market value was and what everybody else was getting. And like I said, you would get something, and then you would get something on the side that was even more than what was that something. So you thought the fighter was getting this much. The fighter was actually getting way more. Okay, so everybody was getting paid over market value without Haymon.
You know what, Paulie? It's funny, Paulie and Chris. Sometimes the fans, they'll talk like they're in on the meeting.
Yeah,
and they'll tell you stuff, and you're looking at them like, how would you know that? And I'll tell you this: I've had several fighters without Haymon.
Mm-hmm.
Not one time have I ever had to cut Al Haymon a check.
Yep.
They used to ask me and say, "Damn, is he going to take his percentage?"
Yeah, because you get paid so much.
And I would obviously say, "You must not just take the money and shut your mouth."
But I will give you.
Smile all the way to the bank. Smile all the way to the bank.
I will give you a financial story about Haymon, my personal, okay, just to show, okay. Like I said, there's pros and cons to everybody, and I've had criticism and I've had pros. We're on this subject of finances. I'll give you a personal story with Al Haymon. I was getting ready to fight Daniel Conner. Was on the card with you when you fought Khan.
Yeah. I
got cut 10 days before the fight, 2 weeks before the fight. Had to pull out of the fight. I was getting ready to put a down payment on a home I was buying, okay, and I had the money in the bank, but I could have really used the money I was about to make in the purse, in the O'Connor fight, just to settle my bank account with a little more cushion in it. And I remember I told Sylvia, who worked for Haymon, and I was like, I was gonna, and she called. I said, and she said, "I'll tell her I'll give you an advance," because I had just agreed to the Danny Garcia fight, which was gonna be like 3 months later. And I said, no, Sylv. I said, I was just saying, like, I could have used probably a little bit of cushion, but for 3 months, I'll be all right. I'll be in camp. She just bypassed me. She goes to Al gave me $100,000 as an advance in the Garcia fight. When I lost the Garcia fight, you want to know something? I got paid the same thing on the contract. He just minus that $100,000, okay? And I got paid, again, separate on top of what's on the contract, okay? So don't give me the whole the Ali Act, this and that, because if you took Al Haymon to court for the Ali Act, I will reiterate again, you would have to give back money. That's it. I'm done on this conversation.
It's funny. Actually, I was listening to Jake Shields say this somewhere. I don't know where he said it, but he said with the Fertitta brothers, it was very similar. Mm-hmm. That when he was with the UFC back in the day, like if he liked you, whatever, you would get extra money on top of everything. But now that's not the case. Obviously, a lot of the UFC guys are complaining about the money and the bonuses they get are very, very small. So yeah, things change. Things change, and everybody sees what's out there.
When you're situations when you're manipulating. And you're trying to buy people, and you're trying to eliminate the Ali Act. That's one thing. That's what we're seeing right now. They're literally you're trying to buy people by giving them hush money, essentially by overpaying at that mid range. You're giving guys that reserve $10,000, $12,000 for fights. You're giving them $50,000. That's probably the majority of boxing. It's the middle class, right? So you keep everybody hushes there, but then at the high level, you're planning a hostile takeover. That's different than what Haymon did. Okay, you want to agree and disagree on what Haymon did or he does. That's fine, but bro, you cannot tell me Haymon's Ali Act situation is the same as Zuffa Ali Act. It's completely different. Enough of this. Let's talk about boxing news. That's it.
From the guy who takes us on the rants.
I'm getting dumber. I'm getting dumber reading these comments.
All right, this is actually a good fight. I really like this fight. Ordered by the IBF as well. IBF is getting really busy with ordering fights, and they're actually ordering good fights. We got Brandon Adams versus Bakhram Murtazaliev. Murtazaliev,
two guys who nobody wanted to see. They've seen each other.
Murtazaliev, who was the dark horse of the division not too long ago, he was a champion. And Brandon Adams, man, who just does not go away. He always comes prepared. He knocks off guys that he's not supposed to. Beat Bohocuk again when they fought this last time. Knocked him out the first time in a fight that he was losing. Last fight really just kind of schooled him. But Brandon Adams is a guy that I've been saying, like, give this guy a shot. And then Murtazaliev, a guy that nobody really wants to see. He just got upset by Josh Kelly a couple months back. So he's back in the mix, thankfully, because, again, if this guy isn't forced down your throat, nobody's going to fight him. So two guys that nobody really wants to fight. Brandon Adams, Bakhram Murtazaliev. Brad, what are your thoughts on this one?
I love the fight. It's a hardcore dreams fight. And you know something, guys? I'm going to take Brandon Adams.
I might be with you on that one.
I think that Bakhram was slightly overrated. I hate saying that. I don't like to really be critical of fighters, but he beat Tim Tszyu and everybody went crazy and acted.
Because you know what it was, Brett? It was the way he beat him.
I get it, Paul.
Yeah, but in hindsight, though,
yeah,
it's first of all, Zoo has proven to be a solid guy, but not an A+ guy. Yeah. Let's be honest. That's what that time tells all, right? And that's the only thing we saw Bakhram do. Other than that, we saw him, beat Jamel Charlo's mandatory for 4 years and never take his title shot. And we saw him struggle with a couple of, in a couple of like little tune-ups fight. We've never, like, this era is so funny. A guy could become a monster without proving that he's a monster. Here's what I'm trying to say. When you guys were coming up, and even before 80s and 90s, like, you don't have a problem giving guys title shots. People will fight you.
But to a degree,
what I'm saying? Guys like Mike Tyson and Marvin Hagler got fights. In this era, Bakhram's considered a monster. He only had one title defense, and that was against Kelly. And
Brett, to a degree, because everybody knew Hagler was a monster that wasn't giving him shots. Hagler had to really wait a long time.
No, but here's what I mean by that.
So if you look at it on paper, you're like, who did Hagler beat? But bro, nobody's fighting him. Nobody wants to deal with him.
No, here's what I mean by that, Paulie. Hagler was able to defend his title. He still fought.
No, you're talking about once he got the title. Yes.
Yeah. Bakhram, nobody even wanted to challenge him for his title.
Well, the problem, nobody wanted to fight him. Yeah, but you know what it is, Brett? That's also politics. He was with a shoemaker promoter who had no dates, so they had to use. I call those shoemakers when you're a promoter with no dates. How you're a promoter with no dates? That's like being at McDonald's without hamburgers. You know what I mean? Like, you're a promoter with no dates. I mean, you should be shining shoes.
Yeah, you still have a title though, and you got to
win full of guys. He couldn't get fights. How do you get dates? Look at where he fought Tim Tszyu. He fought Tim Tszyu on a PBC date, on an Amazon date, because his promoter had no dates.
He took a lot of step aside opportunities. He took a lot of step aside money. Murtazaliev, he had opportunities to fight. And listen, if you deny those step asides and say no, I'm fighting. You fight.
Yeah, you got a point there. Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, Brandon. Go ahead.
Bakhram is good, but I picked Josh Kelly to beat him. Believe it or not.
Yeah,
it's on.
No, I had another friend of mine who would pick Josh as well.
I think Bakhram's good. He's a good puncher, but I don't look at him as this serial killer monster.
Well, I'll tell you what, Brandon's like been poisoned to Eastern Europeans, bro, because he's
a poison to everybody.
He's a
pain in the ass.
He gave Belichick.
He beat him twice.
Belichick is a real monster.
You know what, dude,
he sunned him twice.
There's something about him. It's something about him that he just takes them apart, man.
Yeah.
He really is. He's physically strong. He has one of those hybrid styles where he can be whatever he has to be on the night of the fight. He can come forward. He can box. He can make it. He's a short guy. He can make himself smaller. He's super athletic. Brandon Adams can fight.
Yeah, no, he can. I worked the fight when he fought Charlo. Listen, he's no slouch.
Yo, listen, he was scrapping with Charlo the whole
and that was a Jamal Charlo that was in his prime. That was a
Charlo.
That was a Charlo that at the time I was picking to beat Canelo. That Charlo was difficult to deal with at that time.
Yeah, I think Brandon Adams is going to beat Bakhram.
Brad, do you know anything about Brandon Adams? Because he went to the hospital a little while ago, just like a week ago, I think. He was supposed to fight.
Yeah, with making weight or something, whatever.
Yeah, he was supposed to fight. All right, so listen to this. So Brandon Adams, the ring number 8 junior middleweight, is forced to withdraw from Saturday's fight with Comhin Aguiarco in Las Vegas after he collapsed ahead of a Friday's weigh-in and was rushed to the hospital.
Yeah.
So that
I didn't know anything.
You didn't hear anything about that, but that happened. That happened 2 weeks ago. That was April 10th. This article came out. So that because I thought I remember Brandon being in the news lately. So that's up, and then this is the newest news on him. It's interesting to see that this fight being ordered, even though he's. Maybe his future might be in a little bit in peril here.
Well, you know what, Chris? I know that Brandon has to be in his mid-30s, and he's been making 54 a long time.
He's a big 54. He's jacked.
Yeah, he's jacked up, so he might have some issues making. You know how it is coming down the home stretch.
Yeah,
your body just don't cut those last few calories. So maybe he's having some trouble because you remember, Paulie, the Jamal Charlo fight was at 160. That wasn't at 54.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So maybe he's having some trouble making weight.
Yeah,
he's been campaigning at 54 lately, where I think he really fits in really well. That's where he's getting all these good wins. But you got two guys who struggle to make the weight. Murtazaliev looked dead on the weight when he fought Kelly. He looked very, very drawn. You got Brandon now who who obviously has shown a difficulty making weight. But this is the final eliminator at 154 for the IBF, so both guys are going to whittle themselves down, which could hurt the performance of both guys.
And the funny thing is,
I'd rather see these guys fight at 160.
The funny thing is, Murtazaliev also had trouble making.
That's what I said. Josh Kelly, he looked dead on the weight.
So is this fight at 54? Is that what you're saying?
It's at 54.
Wow.
Like I said, I'd rather see these guys fight at 160.
Especially 160, kind of more open too. Might as well do it at 160.
Speaking of 160, Jesus Ramos Jr., who recently moved up to 160, has been getting wins up there. He's calling out Carlos Adames. Even though Carlos Adames said he's moving up to 168, Jesus Ramos Jr. wants to fight Carlos Adames. He does not want to be an email champion. He wants to beat the champion. He has zero interest in being upgraded to the full WBC middleweight champion by default. If Carlos Adames vacates the fight, Ramos wants to win the title properly by beating Adames in the ring. I love this. I hate these email champion situations. Jesus Ramos.
What's the difference? The difference is, okay, Adames moves up in weight and the title becomes vacant and the number 1 and 2 contender fight for it and then you win the title. Okay, you didn't win it an email champion. Instead, you win it an email champion. You still got to fight the guy who you would have fought if it was vacant anyway, and you beat him. It's the same thing. I mean, you're not gonna you fight a weight drain the dom. You fight a weight drain.
It's got to be on. It's got to the title's got to be in the line. There's a certain level of that.
Okay, but you can.
Come on, you were talking about End the New the other day. This is bullshit. If you want to be a champion, you want to hear End the New.
Yeah, but Adames got to move in weight. You can't force Adames to drain himself. Of course, he's going to beat Adames if Adames drains himself at 60.
That's up to him. So he's a grown man. He can decide what he wants to do.
So Adames moves up in weight. Okay, so you make the title vacant. Right, and
then you fight for it.
And you fight for it.
Yes,
as opposed to what's going to happen now? He becomes an email champion and he fights the same guy he would have fought for the vacant title anyway.
No, it's not true. He currently holds the interim title. He would just be elevated.
Yeah, but then he's going to fight the next available contender,
but then
which is the same fight.
No, it's not the same fight because he's already he'll be elevated immediately. That's the thing. He'll get it in the email. Yeah. Now you're champion.
And then you're fighting
champion.
what? You're fighting your mandatory.
But then you lose to. You say you lose to the guy. You didn't win a title fight.
Yeah, if you lost to the guy, you win a title fight. But if you beat him, I mean, it's the same thing. Essentially.
I mean, I don't know.
Sometimes.
Brett, what's your take on these interims being elevated and guys defending interim belts? I want my champions to fight.
That's the whole point.
I want them to
win. Well, then you can't make an interim champion.
Champions. I want guys beating champions. I don't like vacant titles.
The whole point of an interim champion is he gets elevated if the champion doesn't fight him.
The whole point of an interim champion should be you have to fight the next guy, and now it's a title fight.
No, if he doesn't fight you get elevated.
I think you guys are kind of saying the same thing, but out of different sides of your mouth. I really think that.
Thanks, Brett.
I think that once a guy like Adames moves up, I think they should make it more simple and just let the 2 top-rated guys fight for the title instead of awarding a guy a title without winning it in the ring. I think that if Ramos say he doesn't want to be the email champion, is because the fans and the media, they criticize guys that get awarded the belt through emails. And I think it's an unfair criticism because those guys are not doing anything wrong. They're just waiting for their shot. And for whatever reason, they can't get it. And then they have to kind of accept what comes with the belt. But I think that it's a glitch in the rules. The sanctioning body should simply just make the top 2 available contenders fight for the vacant belt. That way, the media and the fans can't.
But they do. But they do. They make it for the interim title while the other guy's still champion. They do. That's the whole point of the fighting for the interim title. The champion can't fight against his mandatory. So the mandatory will say, the organization will say, okay, well, the mandatory is going to fight the next available contender for the interim title in the meantime. If then the champion doesn't fight the winner of that fight, that interim champion becomes elevated. So they do. It just happens 6 months prior. That's the way it's supposed to work. Now you got interim champions that remain champion for 3 years. But it's the way it was designed to be. Look at Lennox Lewis and Riddick Bowe. That's essentially your prime example. Lennox fought for the interim title. He was supposed to be getting the Riddick Bowe shot, but instead he got elevated. Why? Because he had already fought the next available contender.
You miss what Brett and I are both saying.
But it's not ceremonial, Paul.
Right.
I agree. It's not ceremonial. If that's the case,
the title in the ring.
Okay. Well, then you know what? Then you know what you got to do. You got to eliminate interim champions altogether. Good luck. You know, I get it. I would be fine with that. Eliminate interim champions all the time because all interim championships is just an extra chance to get a sanctioning fee. But you know, we're gonna appease you because the champion's busy. We're gonna appease you and we'll let you fight for the interim title, and then you'll be guaranteed a shot or you'll be elevated.
Interim title should be just in title alone by what it is. But I think that if the situation is, if say I'm Jose Ramos, I'm the interim champion WBC. Carlos Adames is the real champion or the actual WBC champion, the full champion, I should say. He moves up. The title then becomes vacant. Ramos, that interim title shouldn't just evolve into the real title. He should go fight the guy, and then you have to fight.
There's no point in there's no point in making an interim title. Then you just remain the mandatory contender. Exactly. So then
I think interim titles are stupid.
Then the whole point is just don't have an interim title. But that's
they should.
I agree. The only reason they really make interim titles is just to collect an extra sanctioning fee. Who we kidding? They make like it's a fixer.
I never had an interim belt. Does it say interim on the belt? Does it say actual interim?
No, they give you a copy like you got a real copy.
Like a real.
I've looked in the ring.
Yeah,
I've never had an interim belt either, but I've seen, in the ring, you look at it, it looks the same as the main one.
Yeah, But again, we got glitches. We got glitches in the matrix. That is the boxing rule book, which we can talk about for all day and all night. But guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Don't go anywhere. We will have more boxing news, top stories after the break. Friday, May 1st, ProBox TV is at Live Casino Hotel Maryland in Hanover with the DMV's best fighters in their toughest tests. In the main event, as undefeated Sendi Erdenabat goes to war with Maryland's own, once beaten, Kobe Abridi. Then, in the co-main event, fan favorite Francois Scarborough Jr. of Maryland will trade bombs with Central American slugger Maxwell Montes. Welcome back to welcome back to ProBox TV's Top Stories. I'm Chris Algieri in studio with Paul Malignaggi here in the ProBox TV studio. We're talking all things boxing, good, bad, the ugly, everything in between. We got a good fight coming up, though. Keyshawn Davis is back, and he has a rematch with Nahir Albright. Historically, what happened in the past with these two is they fought. Davis won that night, but then the fight was declared a no contest because Keyshawn failed a drug test for marijuana, so the victory was taken away from him.
Beat his brother.
And then since then, actually, Keyshawn has said that he's off the marijuana. That's why we've seen him on this
it's like a reality
epic
show.
run. This is what he's saying. He has looked phenomenal ever since then. He said that it was taken away from.
Smoke weed and...
That's what he says. He says it was taken away from his focus, and he wasn't fully dedicated to the sport. Now he is, and since then he's been on a hell of a run. Nahir Albright, very, very talented guy from the Northeast. Who, he's one of those guys you got to look past the numbers on his record. He could really fight. He gave Keyshawn a little bit of trouble toward the end of the fight. For the most part, though, Keyshawn was able to control him. But then he comes back and he fights Keyshawn's brother, Kelvin Davis, and beats him, Nahir Albright. And then there was a big melee in the dressing room afterwards, a whole big mess. So now Keyshawn is having a rematch with Nahir Albright, even though his first fight he won, but is now declared no contest. They've got the narrative of the brother, and brother Kelvin is actually on the card as well, fighting Pete Dobson.
Hold on,
Pete
New Dobson, he's great at going the distance, but never throws enough punches in these type of fights. But it'll be.
I'm sorry. We still have Stephen Breadman Edwards with Breadman. I'm sorry. I just got told by the truck that you're still with us.
We still got you on. 1 second. I gotta address another one of these guys.
Hold it. Wait for the end. Because we got mailbag later on. We can.
No, it's one of these same argument. Yet you guys are the main ones critical of Zuffa because we talk about interim titles. Moron. The UFC also has interim titles. Yeah. Moron. What are we talking about? You guys are critical of Zuffa. You make like Zuffa's not gonna do that with their titles. They do it already in the UFC. Moron.
What do you think the Banff title is? It's a bullshit title. That means nothing.
But they have interim titles in the UFC as well. Guys, if you work for Zuffa, just acknowledge it in the comments. Don't come here and make like you're neutrally defending them. If you work there, just acknowledge it, buddy. I worked there, and I'm gonna get offended. That's it. It's enough. That's all you gotta say, buddy. Go ahead.
Brett, this Keyshawn Davis, Norfolk, Virginia fight, he's coming home. Last time it didn't work out for him when he came back at home. Obviously, he didn't make weight. He blew weight by a couple pounds. They took him up, but now he's coming back home. He's had a hell of a run recently, and this is an interesting fight. Nahir Albright, are you familiar with Nahir? Is he? Because he's a local Northeast guy. He could fight.
He's from Philly.
Yeah,
I know him.
There you go.
He's from Philly. He can fight. Chris. You'll like him. He's one of those.
I know all about him.
In Philly,
he's like an all-around fighter.
Yes.
He's one of those guys you really can't like pinpoint his style, but he's like cowhide leather tough. Mm-hmm. You're not going to stop him. He's just a mean dude. He's his record is a little bit funny, but that's because he's matched so goddamn hard.
From the very beginning, his entire career is tough.
He's been matched so hard. I actually saw him win the Lucian Blackwell tournament when he was an amateur back in 2015. Me and Paulie always talk about amateur stuff. Mm-hmm. I know him pretty well, man. He has a good team around him, and Keyshawn's the more talented guy, but he's gonna have to earn it. And I'll say this: I've seen most of Keyshawn's career fights. Nahir gave him the toughest fight that he had.
Agreed.
And I know that, you guys said that Keyshawn kind of dominated him. I didn't see that. I thought Keyshawn may have won the fight maybe 6-4, and Keyshawn was hurt with that overhand right.
Yes.
Nahir, he's tricky. He did the same thing to Frank Martin late in the fight. He has this little thing where he can punch with you. And late in the fight, he hurt Frank Martin too. Obviously, Keyshawn is so talented. He could be on the pound-for-pound list, and I know they're probably trying to clear up his record. You know what I mean? He had that one little controversial fight. So this is the way to go back and sell this fight because he beat the brother. But Nahir Albright's no joke.
Yeah, these guys,
I watched him get ready in camp with Andy Cruz. I watched them spar, and Andy Cruz is just lights out in the gym. And Nahir Albright was right with him, man.
Yeah, you mentioned that Frank Martin fight. That Frank Martin fight was a draw. I thought Nahir won that fight hands down. Even he hurt him late.
He almost stopped Martin.
Yeah, I thought he won that fight hands down. He's on a good run of form lately. He had the draw with Frank Martin, which I thought he won. A lot of people did think he won. He beat Kelvin Davis prior to that. Gave him his first loss. He was 15-0 at the time. Nahir beat him by majority decision. He had the Keyshawn fight where he did hurt him late. Was very much in the fight, especially down the stretch. Beat Carlos Balderas before that, who was 14-1 at the time. 11-0 before that, and then he took a loss to Jermaine Ortiz while he was still undefeated. But yes,
spoiler.
I was at the Michael Dutchover fight, 15-1. That was down here at the Seminole Hard Rock in Hollywood, and stopped Mike. And Mike's a tough dude, and Nahir put it on that night. So this is a much more interesting fight than people might think, because obviously, Keyshawn won the first fight. They might not know the backstory of these two, but
the Nobody Annie 2, we're gonna get to you. We're doing a mailbag after,
at the end,
okay?
yeah.
The Nobody Annie 2, you gave a super chat. We're gonna get to you. Don't worry about it. But go ahead.
Paulie used the word in the last show. He talked about fighters that are stubborn, and Nahir Albright is a stubborn. You know what? He does not.
There's that Philly mentality, right? It's generational.
Yeah, he doesn't break. No matter how bad the fight's going, no matter what the expectations are, no matter how much he's losing or supposedly getting outclassed. That's why he has so much success in the late part of the fight, because he never stops trying. He's a dog.
Brad.
He's a real
Keyshawn
dog.
looked really good early in that fight, and then he stayed dogged, like you said, and came on late.
But there's these guys. Philly's one of those cities that creates these guys because from having such a big reputation in the gyms, that they have really good fighters. That they're not just gym fighters, they're just guys who have been moved wrong in their pros and they kind of get lost in the mix, but they can fight their ass off and they'll get an opportunity and be a spoiler. There's the kid that beat Vito Melnicki early on. He was a Philly kid, right?
James Martin.
That comes to mind.
And you know what, Paulie? He's like 10-5. He don't even have a good fight.
He takes fights last minute. They take fights outside their weight class.
In the gym, he is a dog.
Yep, that's what I'm saying. But Philly is really renowned for this kind of thing. I think of Marvin Hagler's career. Wasn't Monroe? I know the son is from upstate New York, but wasn't Monroe or one of the two losses Hagler took early on? Weren't one of those guys from Philly as well?
Both of them. Monroe and Boogaloo Watts are Philadelphia.
That's what I'm saying. They put L's on early Marvin Hagler career, like just low key, nobody knows, and obviously you got two Hagler losses, and they're the reason why Hagler had to wait so long to get a title shot. And these spoilers from Philly, nobody knows them, but they come in and do the job. And one of them had fought Monzon as well, right? One of those two guys had fought Monzon. Benny Briscoe. See,
Benny Briscoe.
Another one who just gets lost in the mix but can fight his ass off. Philly was notorious for this kind of thing, still is.
Briscoe got a draw with Monzon in Argentina.
So we know what that means.
So you know what that means.
And he fought Hagler as well. He beat Hagler?
No, Hagler beat Briscoe.
Hagler beat Briscoe.
Hagler actually beat them all, but he had to fight Boogaloo Watts and Willie Monroe 2 and 3 times, but he actually beat them all. Okay. But Hagler beat Briscoe and Cyclone Hart too. But
man,
Hagler had to come through Philly to forge where he later.
That's what I'm saying. That's not an easy. That's why Hagler. By the time he got there, he was so pissed at everybody. He was beating the crap out of everybody at that point.
Hey, check this out. Nahir Albright, a fighter who lost his pro debut.
Wow.
Who's that remind you of?
Hopkins style.
Yes, exactly. Wow. Another Philly guy.
If you're from Philly, this is the honest to goodness truth.
He probably wound up against one of those type of guys himself in his pro debut.
No, he fought Anthony Loreno.
I don't mean this as a shot to Vegas either. I don't mean this as a shot to Vegas at all. But I've done camps in Vegas, and it's so overrated. Yeah. You got to fly guys in. You got to put them in Airbnbs and do all this. In Philly, you can get all the work you want between Philly, North Jersey, New
Yeah.
York, and DC.
Yeah.
You don't have to go nowhere.
Yeah.
You can just tell guys to come in for the day. It's so many just like tough, hard dudes.
And then that's harder now because you just mentioned an entire region. Back in the day, you just needed a gym. I didn't have to leave Gleason's gym, bro. I had Gleason's gym had everybody, world-class fighters, spoilers.
Mm-hmm.
I got for the first 10 years I started boxing, I barely ever had to go to another gym. Wars. And I remember going to Philly, visiting Philly and going to Schuler gym. And I was like, yo, this place reminds me of that. Is it the Schuler gym? Brett, is it the Schuler gym?
I still train here to this day. Chris came down there a few years back.
And it was years ago. It was years ago, but I went into Schuler gym and I'm like, yo, right here is everything you need. You know what I mean? Like it's like you don't even need to go anywhere. This place is crazy, you know? Nazim was in there too. Nazim Richardson was in there. Yeah,
you got it. He was probably training Rock and Dynamite.
Yeah, it was way back then. Yep.
I've never had to fly guys in from out of town to do a camp in Philly because it's so much work. Yep. I've never had to do that. Now sometimes I may have to pay a guy, to drive up from the DMV area or drive down from the North Jersey, New York area. But I've never had to fly a guy in from San Francisco or some crap like that because it's just too much work. And you don't need the 20-0 prospect. You can get a grizzled 15-4 dude that'll give you all you want every day of the week.
Ant McQueen 558 gives us another name. Tevin Farmer. Came up through the ranks, real spoiler.
A lot of
early on, lost some early fights, Brett, and then
I think he was 0-2 when he first started.
Came out. It was 5-2. I remember he fought Pedraza early. He just kind of got thrown in with everybody. Was a real spoiler and wins a world title, Brett.
The problem that we have in Philly, we have bad managers because what they think is that everybody, every time you see a guy get off in the gym, that means that they could just fight anybody in a real fight. And they take any kind of fight, and guys' careers get destroyed.
I call those smash and grab managers. They see an opportunity.
But as far as the gym work and who can actually get a guy through camp is nothing like Philadelphia. It's nothing like it.
I had a title eliminator against Emmanuel Taylor, tough DMV guy. And
he used to train in Philly.
He did his camp in Philly getting ready for me, and I was like, shit. He was sparring with J-Rock, he said. And I was like, damn it.
Got it.
I'm like, that is a really good guy to be working with fighting me. I was like, shit.
Hey, Chris. His manager called me and asked us for the work because they was getting ready for you. I remember that.
J-Rock, I thought J-Rock was perfect. I'm like tall, long, uses the jab, athletic. I'm like, it makes sense.
And I don't want anybody in the comments to get the wrong idea. This is not a shot at the other regions because I will say I also experienced wild card around 2010 to 2013.
You and I have been all over the country.
And I didn't need another gym when I was living on the West Coast. Wildcard had all the sparring I needed, and I never had to go to the gym when I was on the West Coast, And by that point, Gleason's was not enough anymore. Gleason's was starting to get that changeover.
Well, that's when I started coming to Gleason's. I was coming to Gleason's when you were on the way out of Gleason's. I was still kickboxing. I was
starting to get that changeover. Yeah. Brett, you'll appreciate this story because, you come from old school hardcore gyms. I remember the day I was getting ready. It was the pre-camp to my Love Morendo title-winning fight when I won the IBF title, and I was getting ready in Gleason's before joining Buddy McGirt in Vero Beach, and I was getting ready in Gleason's, and I remember having to wait for the ring to spar because one of the coaches was doing pads with a soccer mom. And I remember I remember back in the day, people just used to get kicked out of the ring because, fighters with real fights had to spar, And I remember waiting there outside the ring and thinking, this place changed, man. This is over. This is I can't train here for fights anymore. And that was it. I never trained for another fight in Gleason's. I went back for some workouts, but I never actually did a camp in Gleason's gym again because it was starting to have that changeover.
I'm like that too, man. I'm gonna tell you something.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why I get on the show at the time I get on, and I'm always rushing from the gym, is because it's been days where we would want to move around the ring and hit pads and hit the donut and stuff like that, and you'll have 2 trainers throw some 10-year-old kid in the ring with you. And I'm looking like, I know I don't own the ring, but my goodness, give us a little bit of respect.
I was taught when I first started boxing, if the champs or the contenders need the ring, I'll be shadow boxing. If they need the ring, you get out of it, man. I remember being a teenager and I was like, no disrespect taken. Like, they have the authority. They have I will get there one day. You know what I'm saying? But out of respect, it's my elders, it's my superiors. They are further ahead than me. They need the ring. I give it to them, and I'll go do something else. And it doesn't mean I have to stop working out. The gym is big, but that's the way I was raised in the gym. That was the gym etiquette. It changed, at least in a lot of gyms.
You know what I start doing? I start going to the gym about 10 o'clock in the morning where all the kids was in school. So I do my workouts earlier so I don't have to go to that. Because a lot of people, they don't have the gym etiquette anymore. So I just changed my times up. We used to run early in the morning and go to the gym around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. But when I start going to the gym and I'm sitting there and I'm looking up and it's 6 or 7 o'clock, and I still haven't gotten the ring for sparring because these guys want their 10-year-old sons to beat the crap out of each other. I'm like, you know what? I'll just go a different time of day or just rent out gym space.
Well,
so now I just go in the morning.
The transition from New York when the Gleasons, I was coming from kickboxing. I was coming to Gleasons to spar with boxers. Imagine that, Brett. I was a kickboxer coming to Gleasons and sparring with the pros that were over there. And then when that
it was a kickboxing crew, the same crew, but they were you were still young. That same crew was coming when I was first starting.
Those are the guys who was ahead of me. That was Derek Panza. That was Derek Panza, Tim
Yep.
Lane. Yep, those guys are coming. They could actually box a little bit. They both fought with Vinny Manaloni. Vinny Manaloni was friends with Derek.
Yep.
But yeah, when I turned transition to boxing, that's when Gleason's was starting to be more of that white collar kind of gym, and that's when I left. And I went to Robert Garcia's camp. I did 4 camps over there. Then I found Vegas. And Vegas was great because Vegas is just a melting pot. People are coming from all over. Like Brad, you mentioned never having to bring anybody in. Vegas, you don't have to because they're bringing themselves in, and the gyms are just packed with guys. You never know who's going to show up.
You know what, guys? I think Vegas is overrated, though.
No,
man.
not in the early 2000s, man.
You know what? When I did the camps out there, it was more recent, and we had trouble finding sparring.
Yeah.
Nowadays it's different because after the pandemic, Vegas got crushed.
A lot of things
crushed.
changed. Man.
Nobody really comes in there.
I did a Vegas camp in like 2004. I remember I was getting ready for a showbox fight in Laughlin. And I remember there was a lot of sparring
Gyms
there.
are sick.
Toko's gym and Richard Steele's gym. Remember Richard Steele had a gym?
Johnny Toko's.
Yeah. And
Johnny
Richard Steele, the
Toko's
back
gym.
ring. I remember I sparred Livingston Bramble. Livingston Bramble was there still. He was sparring. Because I was training for a lefty. I'll give you another funny story. I was training for a lefty, so I was trying to look for lefty sparring because the fight I had on Showbox was with a lefty. And so I knew Bramble could switch. Now I needed it. We were getting close to the fight. It was like 10 days out, so I needed just the last touch-ups, And so I told my trainer, what do you think of Bramble? I know my grandfather knows Bramble because Bramble knocked out Mancini, So it was like I was.
What was he, 65 years old?
Yeah. He was still training. He was in his 40s. So I just needed a lefty look. And I remember I said, Bramble's like, yeah, we'll spar tomorrow. The bell rings. I didn't tell him I needed a lefty, but I figured my coach would tell him I needed a lefty. Bell rings.
You don't tell Bramble what to do.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. You don't tell Bramble what to do.
Don't tell Bramble what to do.
The bell rings and he comes out right-handed. I remember I don't know why I did this, but I'm 22, 23 years old. The bell rings, we get to center ring, and I look over at my coach and I'm like, Coach, I need him to be left-handed. Instead of just telling Bramble, I'm training for a lefty. And so the fact that I went to a third person just to speak to him that he's in front of me, Bramble turns lefty and then just starts like getting really mad, getting extra aggressive and goes, I'm still Bramble. I'm still Bramble. And I wasn't trying to disrespect him. I just needed the lefty work because I was getting ready for a lefty. But he did turn lefty, but it was like, I'm still Bramble. I'm still Bramble. I was like, you got it, champ. You got it.
Back in 2013, I was sparring with, remember Sharif Bojeri? He was a good...
Sharif Bojir. I remember that guy.
Yeah, he could fight. I sparred him a lot, getting ready for the Taylor fight. And Bones, it was in Bones Adams' gym. It wasn't the gym that he has now. And he was still trying to fight. He was like, I'll get a couple rounds. So I got to spar with Bones Adams, like 2 rounds before I work with Sharif.
Bones is slick himself,
Yeah. Now, I was always a big fan of Bones, so that was a lot of fun for me to work with him then. But back in the 2000 aughts, I randomly sparred with Canelo Alvarez, Brad. I was sparring with a coach who had a bunch of fighters in his little gym. It was right above Dean Martin Way. It was above some mechanic shop or whatever. And I kind of ran through all his guys, and he was like, we got a guy coming, a Golden Boy guy coming in. And I'm like, okay, cool, yeah, wherever, just tell us where to go. No, come to my gym. We'll be here on Monday. Okay, cool. I'm walking in, and he had just fought Leonardo Tyner, which we had just spoke about, Brad. He had just fought Leonardo in Mexico City. This was Canelo. Mm-hmm. And at this time, he wasn't really Canelo yet. He was still Saul. Mm-hmm. I'm walking in with my coach. We're going up the stairs, and and I see a redheaded Mexican. And I'm like, oh, damn, that's Saul. And my coach looks at me and he goes, are we good? And I'm like, yeah, we're good. I'm like, this guy's good though. He's like, okay, but we're good. I'm like, yeah, we're fine. We go in there, we sparred. We did 4 with Canelo that day, and they liked the work, and they brought me back later in the weekend. But it was like just randomly, like, you're gonna swap with Canelo Alvarez. That's
Well,
Vegas back then was hot like that.
That's the randomness of Vegas. Yeah, that was back then. Yo, but going back to Philly though, the Nobody 92. This one I'll address now. Your previous question.
Let's
but this one
up.
I'll address now because it's basically just on the Philly talk. He's not a question. He's just making a point. Philly had a promoter named Russell Peltz, of course. Ice boxing heads all remember Russell Peltz, who used to throw all these tough fights and have all the local Philly fighters fight each other. Brad, obviously you can attest to this more.
You know what? I have a really good relationship with Russell Peltz.
Peltz is known to have a good boxing library too, I believe, right?
Oh, Paulie, listen, it's not. It could be archived. It's unbelievable. He has his like house is like a museum, and it's neat, and it's like, and everything's in chronological order from the books to the fights to the posters. If you guys ever got a chance, it's unbelievable.
I'm gonna put a bid in for that, man. Come on,
down the Brewery Town section in Philadelphia. Me and Russell Peltz have a really good relationship, and it's funny, right? Because he'll randomly call me about maybe every 2 or 3 months. He'll hear me say something and he'll like correct me on a Monzone or Briscoe or whatever. His mind's still really sharp. So he does believe in, local fights for the ticket sales, right? So he has this middleweight, this Irish kid, he's a tough kid. I'm gonna guess his record's maybe 8-4. Real tough kid though. I heard he knocks people out at the bars and stuff. So people called me and asked me about him and Iran Peterson. So I called Russell Peltz and I said, well, I know you believe in, local fights. So you got a black kid from West Philly, white kid from South Philly, tough kid. Let's match you up.
Yeah, that's how you do boxing, though. People are, but that's how you do boxing. And then the neighborhood rivalries.
That's as old school as it gets.
Yeah, that's how you sold Beaver Zab in Brooklyn. I mean, that's how you do it.
We fought on that undercard, by the way, Paulie. J-Rock fought on that undercard when you fought that. But anyway, so he started laughing at me because he knew he couldn't, say no or I don't believe in that because he made his reputation off of that. And he's like, Peterson must be very good for you to call me about this type of fight.
That's the Russell Peltz lingo too. That's how he talks.
That's how he talks. That's exactly. Listen, this is like 3 weeks ago. It's so funny. This is like 3 weeks ago. He's like, he must be very good, Steve. I know. Red man, he must be very good.
Yo, Al Camino N7 says one of the many reasons I enjoy this podcast over most, especially the Kellerman one, real insight and experiences. Yeah, well, that's what you get with us. We've obviously got a different kind of. I'm sure Max has different kinds of experiences from the other side of the mic.
Yeah, of course.
But we have the inside the gym experiences, right? The little known tales of things that happen inside the gym behind closed doors and some fun stuff.
And that's why you guys tune in.
We give you guys a lot of it, but not all of it. Some stuff does stay behind the scenes. We enjoy giving you guys a lot of those tidbits, and even going back down memory lane for ourselves. And Brad, you too, man. I mean, it's also because you were in great gyms in Philly. Us in New York, I mean, and the West Coast. I mean, it's good stuff to share.
The first time I met Chris came down to Philly with the trainers with Danny Jacobs. What are their names?
Andre
Rozier and
Gary Stark.
Yeah.
Chris came down with him. That's the first time I met Chris.
Yeah, I was rolling with that crew deep.
Those are New York staples, man. Those guys, and they
for sure. Deep in Brooklyn.
They're great guys, man. I love those guys.
Yeah,
they've been Gary Stark and Andre Rozier. They're cool dudes.
Yeah, they've been creating a boxing culture in Brooklyn, and they are very responsible for keeping the boxing culture strong in Brooklyn.
And they're very
through several generations. Yeah,
like I could call them right now and say I need some work, and they're very responsive. They still Gary Starks brought a guy down for me last year.
Yeah. If it wasn't for them, there would not be much boxing in New York like you're talking about.
Even Jimmy O back in the day, Jimmy O'Farrell, who was the old timer. He passed away. Rest in peace, Jimmy O.
His son is still working though. He works with the young guys.
At Starrett City Boxing Club, Jimmy O was a real old school head. George Washington and Bed-Stuy Boxing Club. The old school heads will remember him. He started guys like Riddick Bowe and Mark Breland. Man, I'm telling you, man. Yeah. Man, some of those old school guys, rest in peace to them, man. Real pioneers. Yes, man. Started out some of the greats, some of the real champions, never doesn't get mentioned enough because he kind of just started them out and that's it. But he was a real astute guy, man. Any old school Brooklyn boxing person will remember him.
I want to ask you guys a different question. Mm-hmm. What is it about the New York Golden Gloves that seems to like you'll have a guy like you, Paulie, that'll get through, and then 5 other guys they get burnt out in it. What is it? Is it the competition or is it too many fights? But
Well,
New York will have like a great amateur and they'll kind of like burn out.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's being matched wrong. Sometimes it's the competition. I think bad matchmaking. Also, guys. Also, and I noticed when I was coming up the ladder, the 6 to 8 round jump wiped out a lot of guys. It zapped a lot of guys. Like some guys didn't know how to pace. Some guys didn't know how to pace themselves through the rounds. They were good, but they just once the rounds got longer, they just couldn't. They couldn't get through it. It's a weird thing, man. I tell you, it's a weird thing, and it's kind of fascinating to watch as you're coming up the ladder. A lot of guys that you saw. You couldn't miss in the amateurs that you were with them in the amateurs. You're like, wow, they just got zapped. Now, Champ, you have a different view because you weren't in the amateurs.
I wasn't in the amateurs, but I've seen those guys come through, and I'm still watching those guys come through. It's New York, man. The guys who get away from New York. You left New York. You got out of there when you needed to.
No, but it was also guys in general, even outside of New York. I mean, there were guys I was in the amateurs with that I thought couldn't miss.
But he was asking specifically about New York guys because we don't get a lot of champions. We really don't.
Well, it's also Philly. It's also Philly too. Brett, this conversation started like this. Well, the Philly guys who flow between the cracks were total spoilers.
Oh, Brett, you asked about New York. Like, why don't we get more New York champions? We don't have that many. It's wild. How many good, talented guys
New York
we have?
changed now because New York it became too expensive even to box.
Yeah.
Boxing was always a poor person's sport. Now it's not.
Like per capita, New York has more people than anywhere in the country.
Too expensive, Brett. Even to box, the PAL shut down.
But yet when it's time for the world champions to come, because obviously you guys aren't from this era. You guys turned pro 2025.
But Brett, that was when boxing was more affordable. You know, the PALs closed down. A lot of PALs in New York. Boxing is not free to anybody in New York anymore. These poor kids, exactly. These poor kids that you were developing fighters in the PALs and boxing gyms in New York like a fight factory, man. Now it's like you're not developing them anymore because these kids don't even have money to start boxing before it was free. You know what I mean? It's like it's actually a shame because I believe New York would still produce this. A lot of poor kids will always gravitate to boxing, and now they can't because it's not free anymore. There's no PALs or not that many PALs now doing it. The gym costs money. The kids don't have it, and so it doesn't take the kids off the streets the way you would want it to and the way it was supposed to and the way it always did.
Brett, I had no amateur fights. I turned pro from kickboxing. I have 0 amateur boxing fights. My first boxing match was my pro debut, and I was 25 working, and I still couldn't afford New York. That's why I left. I didn't really get anywhere until I left New York. I needed to leave to go to Las Vegas, to go to California where I could live like a real pro because in New York I couldn't do it. Driving 2 hours back and forth in Long Island traffic and spending gas, I just couldn't afford it. There was no way I could have made it if I stayed in New York. Me leaving where I could live. Robert Garcia helped me out a lot because I was able to stay in their fighter hotel, which was super cheap comparatively, and be able to just go back and forth to the gym twice a day and learn what a real camp was like. Vegas was so much cheaper at the time. Just New York was just the barrier to entry was finances, and I think that hurts a lot of guys because then you find these guys are out getting jobs. These guys are out getting into trouble. These guys are doing other ways to make money, and that you lose a lot of guys to that.
Robbing people. They got to make money. Yeah. It's a literally poverty. You no longer welcome in a boxing gym because it's not free anymore. It's messed up. We got to go to break, Champ.
Yeah, we got to go to break, guys. This is why you tune in. You get the inside information. This is with the Champ and I and Brett. I always appreciate you having your time and your insight. But guys, don't go anywhere. We got the mailbag coming next after the break. Friday, May 1st, ProBox TV is at Live Casino Hotel Maryland in Hanover with the DMV's best fighters in their toughest tests. In the main event, as undefeated Sendi Erdenabat goes to war with Maryland's own, once beaten, Kobe Abridi. Then, in the co-main event, fan favorite Francois Scarborough Jr. of Maryland will trade bombs with Central American slugger Maxwell Montes. Welcome into your favorite time of the week. It's the Boxing Scene Mailbag. But before we get to your questions, Paulie's got a little story he's got to talk
I got one more story about the finances.
Piggybacking off of where we came from.
Brad, you still there or did Brad leave?
I think we lost Brad.
Oh, he left. Brad left. Okay. There's one more story here. When I started boxing, in June 1997. My uncle first took me to the gym in August 1996. Okay, I remember the gym dues were $45 a month in Gleason's gym. My uncle was like, you know what? I'll take you and your brother to the gym, and I'll pay it for you, and we'll get it done. The trainer he spoke to was a trainer that he knew from back in the day. He used to do a little boxing, and he was a trainer in Gleason's. I won't mention his name. He said he would train my brother and I for $35 each per week, so $70 a week. My uncle's like, bro, guys, I'm sorry.
That's a lot, yeah.
My uncle's like, it's 1996. My uncle's like, I'm sorry, bro. It's like, guys, I wanted to do this for you, but I can't afford that. 45 a month for both of you plus 70 a week. You know, it's not gonna happen. So I didn't start boxing. In the subsequent year in my high school, I get kicked out of school. I have a turbulent year in school. I was already going the wrong way. They were hoping boxing would put me on the right path instead of, I didn't do it and it put me on the wrong path. This is what I'm talking about, boxing helping people. I get expelled from school in May of 97. My grandfather doesn't know what to do with me. My uncle's like, bro, take him to the gym. So I go back to the gym. And I remember I go on June 25th, 97. And I go late in the day, and there's not a lot of people there. And one of the trainers there, Willie Badillo, he ends up becoming my first trainer. Okay, Willie is still in Gleason's gym to this day. Willie, my uncle goes to him, listen, we don't have a lot of money. What's the charge here? Because the gym dues are 45 a month. Willie goes to my uncle. I won't charge the kid if he shows me he wants to do it. If he shows me dedication, I won't charge the kid. That is the reason I was able to start boxing. If I get another answer like I got 9 months prior, I will not be able to start boxing. And I never boxed at that point. At that point, it's already late. I'm already 16 by that point. That answer allowed me to start boxing and allowed me to start my journey, and I'm still here. So that's what I'm talking about, the finances in New York. Think about how many people might be in that situation that I was in, where you're not going to be able to start boxing because of the way the financial situation in boxing gyms works now. It's too expensive. Nowhere is it friendly to the poor where they can gravitate to a boxing gym. So I'm a specific reason where if I would have come up today, I don't know that I would have, in that situation that I was in back then, I don't know that I would have been able to ever box. So that's my story.
So if you guys have a local PAL near you, go
support
donate to them. Go support, go donate, go bring your kids there too, because I mean there's few and far between. We have one over here.
And keep boxing in the PALs. Very important.
Very, very important. But we got some questions from the mailbag for you guys. First one up, what do we got? The Nobody 92, thoughts on De La Hoya testifying in front of the U.S. Senate against the TKO and the revival of the Ali Act. We mentioned this earlier. It came up in the comments prior. Today was the day that there was a group that went and spoke out to the U.S. Senate. It's the Senate, right? Because they already passed the representatives, or was it the other way around?
Yeah. It's got to go one, and then in the other.
I don't know which one was first.
Yeah, one is still got to go. One is already passed.
So from what I understand, it was Nico Ali Walsh was on one side with Oscar De La Hoya, and then they had was it Nick Khan and there was someone else there, and they had their own opening arguments, and they go back and forth. I respect De La Hoya and Nico for taking the stand and standing up for boxing, and boxing needs a lot of things to be fixed, and they're at least standing up for it. And Oscar is one of those guys who's been very adamant against this, and I don't know how much of it has to do with him as a boxing promoter, or how much he's just going against the tide of Dana
or
White.
him being an ex-fighter too, right?
That too. But I don't know. We've seen a lot of ex-fighters who have turned to promoters.
I will say this. Okay, this is one of those. This is one of those things where I think you have to keep it, but the people that are on the side of keeping it, if it stays the way it is, could one day be against each other in a court of law as well, right? Because I think the promoters want the Ali Act to stay because it's proper etiquette for fighters to have it. But if it has too much teeth, it hurts the promoters, right? Their ability to maneuver. But at least even not having teeth, the fighters can still fight against what they think is maybe improper behavior by the promoter. Think about it like this. I think it's honorable for Oscar to be fighting for the Ali Act to remain the same, because think about it this way. Virgil Ortiz may be against him in court on the basis of what's possibly his right to fight Oscar based on the Ali Act, possibly. So if the Ali Act were removed here, maybe Virgil has no case, right? So the fact that Oscar is still fighting for it, means Oscar obviously believes in his case in the Virgil Ortiz case, obviously, because he's fighting. Hey, we got to keep this law the same, at least. Maybe it may not have no teeth, but we doesn't even mean we need to remove it, despite the fact that it may be the reason why Virgil may be fighting him. So I think that's props to Oscar for doing that, and of course, it also. Oscar may feel, hey, even with the act, I behave properly towards the fighter, and it's my chance to show that if you do take me to court. Regardless, I think it's honorable for a guy like Oscar to be trying to uphold it. Also, Nico Ali, obviously he's not a guy who's in the high rankings, but his last name is on it, so it means a lot to him as well, and it's honorable for him to be fighting for the rights of fighters.
Yeah, we got a $10 super chat on there, champ. What do we got?
Do you guys think Keyshawn should have fought Frank Martin instead of Albright?
I thought it was going to be piggybacking off the Ali Act.
If so, who would you give the fight?
Wait, say that again?
Do you think Keyshawn should have fought Frank Martin instead of Nahir Albright? If so, who would you give that fight to?
No, I think if you would have listened to us earlier, I thought that Nahir Albright actually beat Frank Martin in their fight. But also the history that Nahir and Keyshawn have, one in terms of their first fight, which... Yeah. As Breadman said earlier, he thought was Keyshawn's toughest fight. I called that fight. It was a tough fight, especially down the stretch. But also the fact that he beat the brother Kelvin. So there's much more of a narrative for this. But also I think he beat Frank Martin either way.
The one narrative you have with Frank Martin is you can compare how Keyshawn handled him to how Gervonta Davis handled him, who was a big name in the sport too. That's the one narrative you could possibly bring out if Martin were to fight Keyshawn. But Martin is going to be one of those guys. It's like Jermaine Ortiz, I think, where he's going to be good, but he's not quite good enough to win a world title.
Well, Jermaine Ortiz actually he did actually beat Nahir Albright, so there's that as well.
Trift FT.
We got the Silent Sniper, Chris, sparring Canelo. How did it play out? Anything interesting? Yeah, I mean, it was funny. This was prior to the Mayweather fight, and I remember being asked about the fight because there are a lot of people that were coming and thinking that Canelo was going to beat Mayweather, and I said no, he's going to get outboxed. And they were like, "Well, what do you mean?" I'm like, once you see Canelo go to the ropes and put his hands up, the fight's over. Yeah. Because I had seen when guys didn't come right to him, I noticed that he would look to counter and he would actually get super defensive and he put himself on the ropes and
trying to set traps.
Traps, exactly. Yeah. But I was
a very basic trap though.
I was very basic. And I was very impressed with his hand position on defense. His good reactions. He was quicker than I would expect, which he actually showed later in his career. Didn't hit as hard as I expected. I thought a lot of people were like, he was this killer puncher back then. He was younger.
That came later with tainted meat.
Yeah, I guess the punching power came later, but I can see why, especially moving up in weight because of the speed. He was extremely quick and had the number one thing that I really noticed was the hand position. The way he was able to get his the phone up, when he was able to get the hand back to home. He was quick, decent jab, good countering. But yeah, I saw right away that boxers were going to give him trouble, and we saw him have a string of boxers give him a lot of trouble in those years, especially around 154. You saw the Mayweather fight, Lara, Trout, all of those guys gave him a lot of trouble. So yeah, but fantastic to work with. Really, really professional team. Felt welcoming. They were very, very cool. I was new guy coming in, and they were very, very grateful I was there. I kept thanking me for coming to spar. So I don't know. It was interesting, and he's a great guy. I've run into him a million times after that as well. So
Trix FTW super chat. If David Benavidez beats Zurdo Ramirez, he'd be the first fighter in history to win world titles at 168, 175, and 200. Does he have a case for the Hall of Fame? Absolutely, I think if he does.
Oh yeah,
if he does that. I mean, and honestly, he still got more to. He can still accomplish even more. It's not like he would end his career beating Zurdo. If he beats Zurdo, he would continue to, I think, fight top flight opposition. I'm sure there's more of the story to be written for Benavidez. He's doing, maybe he might go back down and win one at 75. At 75, did he have the full title? I think they've stripped Bivol. It was more of an email title. But I think we've heard that he goes back to 75 and maybe tries to take on some of these guys. So yeah, Benavidez, I think, states a big case for the Hall of Fame and probably will continue to do so even after Zurdo.
Zurdo Ramirez has not won a title at cruiserweight yet?
Zurdo has, but Benavidez talking about.
Okay, so he won at 68, 75, and
did he? No, 75 he didn't win one. He got beat by Bivol. And was
Zurdo never had a title at 75?
No, he just got beat by Bivol.
Skipped over 75 and won a title at cruiser.
He didn't skip it. He got beat by Bivol.
But still being able to skip over and still come back and win. Like Arturo Gatti didn't never win a title at 35, but he won a title at 40. He won a 30 and 40. That's rare. So, wow.
The Nobody 92 is back. Chris Algieri will appreciate this. Shout out to Westbury Boxing Club in Westbury, New York. The last free boxing gym in New York City. I've worked out there.
Well, I was going to say, you got guy. You've been there probably just as much as me, maybe even more actually, because I spent most of my camp out of New York. But
yeah, I enjoy Freeport PAL and Westbury Boxing Club when I'm in Long Island.
Yes.
Good boxing gyms, free boxing gyms.
I went to Freeport more than I went to Westbury.
Yeah, Freeport with Joe Higgins. Joe Higgins, a really amazing guy.
Really, rest in peace, Patrick Day. Out of there, Shawnee Monahan.
Oof, yeah, great shout in the Nobody 92. Freeport and Westbury, great spots. We got another one. These super chats are coming. Nobody 92 again. He took Matt Borgerson's place today.
Yeah, right. He's third chair.
Why did they shut down the Daily News Golden Gloves and change the name to the Ringmasters? Felt the original name meant more to New York City cultures. That is a big disappointment.
Yeah.
There was some political strife going on behind the scenes. It depends on who you ask. It's somebody's fault or the other side's fault. I really think it's a shame because the Daily News Golden Gloves you still have the tournament as the ringmasters, but it doesn't have the same effect because the New York Daily News used to have the articles. And as a teenager, I can remember specifically the articles were a big deal for me. You know, like it was when you're a teenager, you get to show them to your friends. Your friends read about you in the New York Daily News, which is a major newspaper in New York. And every day's results, because the tournament was for 3 months and every day there was fights. The results from the previous night, there was articles. And I still hear from the reporter from back then, Bill Farrell, every once in a while. Really different effect. Without the Daily News involved, you can still do the tournament. You can still have the finals at Madison Square Garden, but without the Daily News involved and the articles involved, it really does change things. It also promoted the tournament very well with the Daily News because you would see the schedule every day in the paper, and then people would go. The tournament was all over New York City, a different place every night, different weight classes fighting every night, different rounds of the tournament as people progress. I really miss it.
Definitely doesn't carry the same weight because when you run into like casual people who don't know about boxing, like like Golden Gloves, like you're like people who don't know anything about fighting. It's like you do Golden Gloves. No, I'm a professional, but like Golden Gloves.
For me, the highlight of my amateur career was winning the U.S. championships. It was the pinnacle of my amateur career. I didn't have a long amateur career, but I had a good one for how long it lasted. But the Golden Gloves were a really prestigious thing that more people knew. See, like for example, if you talk to people, they don't know that the U.S. championships are much more important than the Golden Gloves. So, I can't really, if I want to be relatable to somebody who's asking me about boxing, I'll say I won the New York Golden Gloves. I didn't win the National Golden Gloves, but I won the New York Golden Gloves.
My nephew won the Ringmasters 3 times. And even when I explained it to certain people, I'm like, that's what the Golden Gloves was. And
they changed the name. Okay.
Yeah. So the name does hold a lot of weight.
So the Golden Gloves resonates a lot, and the Daily News, again, the Nobody Any too, it depends who you ask. It's a lot of he said, she said, and that's a shame.
Yeah, we got one more coming from the mailbag. Mac Majestic P4I. Paulie, who were good sparring partners for you at Wildcard?
Who weren't, man? I mean, there was guys there that I remember I sparred without knowing who they were, mind you. I sparred Victor Postal at Wildcard before anybody knew who he was. There was several guys that didn't go anywhere. They were solid, good sparring partners. I remember there was a kid named Joelo Diaz. He was 130 pounds.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember they put him in. They put him in on the end. I remember I sparred 10 rounds in the last 2 rounds. I'll give you a funny story. And, again, because it's just a lot of blur stuff. But we were sparring 3 times a week with everybody over there. I'm going to be missing a lot of names. But Joelo, the funny thing about Joelo, I think it was my first or second day sparring. I sparred 12 rounds, right? And I already showed up in shape. And the 10 rounds, and then the last 2 rounds were going to be with the smaller guy. I don't know who he is. And I remember walking back to my corner and telling Eric Brown, like, okay, the hard part of the sparring is out. The last 2 rounds, I'll just move around. Like I was like, this shouldn't be too complicated. And I remember Eric specifically saying, no. Keep your head up. Keep your eyes sharp. This kid's good. And in my mind, I'm like, you think you know it all.
What weight was he?
He was 130 pounder at the time, And I was like, yeah.
Listen,
I go out there like, okay, I'm going to have a lazy couple of rounds, just box athletically just to get through the rounds, because I'm tired. I throw like a lazy jab. This kid slips and boom, so hard. I mean, I'm talking about a sharp left hook right off the jump. He was ready to go. Meantime, I'm 10 rounds in, tired. Boom! Bro, I had to check in my legs. This kid punched so hard. Granted, everybody snuck 14s on it at Wildcard in the West Coast, which I would later learn. It was my first or second day sparring, so I didn't know yet. Regardless, I had to check my legs to see if I was still standing. I was like, whoa. I was like, yo. I was like, all right. 2 rounds. Stay sharp for 2 more rounds. So this was the kind of stuff you had at Wildcard where it was guys you knew, guys you didn't know. They could surprise you. They could give you great work. They didn't give you great work. I remember I was actually, who was the kid that was signed the Golden Boy? He ended up getting in trouble in the street, but he was very, very good. Frankie something. Frank Gomez, yeah. I was going to spar him, but I got cut. I had a slew of sparring partners ready to go. There was like 3, 4, and 3 or something like that. And I remember he was coming in on the end or like in the middle. But the first guy, I got cut in the sparring. It wasn't a bad cut, so it didn't affect my fight that I was training for. But I couldn't stay sparring because of this little cut might have got bigger. So I had to get out of the ring. He was scheduled to go in there next. So I never sparred Frankie. He was actually getting ready to go get in there with me next. And I had to come out of the ring because this little cut had opened up. And we couldn't stay sparring that day because otherwise we would risk it busting open and then not being able to fight. So the little things you get in the gym. But yeah, there were several guys, that I'm if I think about it enough, like if you
A
give me
lot
like
of those
if you give me
West
like 10,
Coast
15
gyms-
minutes to think about it, I'll think of more names.
A lot
but-
of those West Coast gyms, it didn't matter. Everybody could fight. I remember being at Robert Garcia's camp and gym a bunch of times, a bunch of different camps. And I always called, there was general population and then there was like the VIP
fighters,
guys.
yeah.
There's the VIP fighters. Like, the VIP guys, like we had in the gym at that time, Marcos Maidana was in there, Brendan Rios was in there, Kelly Pavlik was in there. And what would happen is you'd have 3 days a week, like you were saying. That was the Gen Pop, and there was like all those guys. And listen, they were guys that were literally working an In-N-Out Burger that could knock your goddamn head off. Like everybody could fight.
Yeah.
And then what Robert would do is he would pick out the top quality guys from the or if you needed certain specific sparring and bring you into the VIP guys. And I remember they had brought in a couple guys from the East Coast for Brandon, because Brandon was obviously one of those VIP guys. And Brandon was a riot. He was always messing with everybody. He was pantsing people. He was grabbing people's nuts. He was talking shit. He was cursing at everybody. Like, that was just the way Brandon was. And but he was sparring with two East Coast guys. I'm trying to remember. One of them was Ronald Ellis was in there too. He was sparring with Kelly Pavlik, but he had these two guys because he was getting ready for, it was supposed to be Gamboa, and that fight actually fell through. And then it got switched over to, who was the tall guy who gave him a lot of trouble? Oh man, I'm drawing a blank. Anyway, he was a tall guy, but he gave Brandon a lot of trouble at 135. I remember walking in the gym, and it was one of my first days, and they were finding out that the fight was switched. Richard Abril. Richard Abril. Yeah. And the fight got switched to Richard Abril. So Brandon's talking to Robert, and Brandon's in the ring, and he's yelling as usual. And he goes, "What about that fucker?" Because in East Coast, everybody says fucker. What about that fucker? And he's like, who? Robert's like, who? He's like, the New York fucker. He's tall.
Oh, you.
So he's like, because Richard Abril was tall. I was like, it was Monday.
Pick him up.
It was Monday.
I usually don't pick up hitchhikers, but I'm going to go with my instinct on this one.
That fucking kid did 12 rounds on a Monday.
Yeah. Just wake up and work.
Yeah, he did 4 rounds with the smaller guy that he had, and then had me do like the last 8, whatever. And then I became the sparring partner for that camp from that. And the same thing happened with Maidana. You were the right got pulled in, and it was just the right height. But also I was the only guy who boxed over there. They were all fighting. I was in there boxing.
Guys, there was more of a culture on the West Coast to keep answering the question about this West Coast stuff, and more stationary guys. So movers were kind of a different spice in the gyms. And then another guy. See, I told you if you'd give me 10, 15 minutes, I'll think of more guys. Another guy used to spar, and there was Ray Beltran, who ended up becoming WBO lightweight champion as well.
He was down here in Florida for a little bit.
He was another guy sparred out there. Again, like I said, if you give me enough time, if you give me this question with like 10, 15 minutes to think, I'll come up with names. So Ray's another one that I thought about. But the funny thing about Postal, I sparred Postal several times. I get the Sinchenko fight. Postal's tall.
Oh, that's perfect.
Sinchenko's tall. I called my lawyer, who was on the West Coast, Steve Besh, who's Ukrainian. I said, "Hey, Steve," I was like, "Can you find Postal?" Because Postal used to come in and out of wild card. Can you find Postal's team? I want to use him for sparring for Sinchenko. Bro, they ghosted us. And I said, "Steve, what's up with that guy, man?" Yeah, he said, nah. He said some of those guys get funny about helping you fight their countrymen.
Wow.
He ghosted us, bro. I had sparred various times with Postal, just ghosted us. Whatever, not in person. I ended up winning the Sinchenko fight anyway, but it was funny. Some of the stories. That guy said, if you ever meet me in person, you give me 10, 15 minutes to think about this, I will run off a bunch of guys from wild card. But those are off the top of my head. Those are some of the more recognizable memories, and if I have a minute to think about it. Oh, Chris, why didn't you fight your entire career the way you fought Ruslan? Felt like after Pacquiao fight, you began to fight more aggressively. That's the Nobody 92 super chat. I can't skip the super chat. We're trying to leave, but we got to give you guys one last answer. Go ahead. Why didn't you fight like Ruslan?
I hurt my knee.
Yeah.
And didn't move as much.
Yeah.
I had 2 knee surgeries and had to stand and fight more.
You had a knee brace on, right? For the Spence fight?
Spence fight was like the worst my knee ever. I had knee surgery 3 days after the Spence fight. I couldn't. Everyone's like, "Oh, why didn't you move on?" I'm like, I never wanted to say anything, because also I didn't want to hurt my contract, because if my promoter knew that I was injured, he was going to try and tack on time to myself. So I was going to keep everything quiet. I had a really bad knee injury. I hurt my knee originally in high school, and then
wrestling.
Exactly. Wrestling and kickboxing. And then it started to affect me later in my career, where I became much more of a stationary come forward fighter. And it worked for me at certain fights, like obviously when I made my comeback. And that's again why I was better coming back down to 140 even in my later years. It was just bigger. It was bigger and stronger than those guys. And it's like the Tommy Coyle fight, which you worked. I came forward the whole time. I came forward. Eric Bonet came forward the entire time. And he was a strong guy. So it was a different version. Khan, I came forward the whole time. My knee was damaged in that fight too before that. There's your answer. Guys, thanks so much for tuning in. It's awesome that you guys spend your mid-afternoon. I can't believe we have so many people who tune in each and every day.
That's great, man.
Yeah,
you guys keep the show going, bro.
For sure. Because
I don't like rehearsed shows. I like reading your comments and just going off the cuff. You know, it's like we're conversating with you guys. Thanks, guys. Thanks,
I got to keep us in line a little bit because we do actually have some things we have to cover. But guys, thanks for tuning in. We're not going to be here tomorrow, but we do have some stuff for you. But we do have fights coming up in a couple weeks.
Tune in tomorrow, though. We got a show for you.
Really good show. You guys are going to love it.
Won't be live, but we recorded a show for you tomorrow.
Nahir Albright versus Kobe Abridi. Co-main event, Francois Scarborough Jr. versus Maxwell Montes, live on ProBox TV on our YouTube channel in association with No Excuse Promotions. Friday, May the 1st, live casino and hotel in Maryland, Hanover, Maryland. Make sure you guys tune in. 50-50 all-action fights as you guys are accustomed to. Don't want to miss the action. Friday, May 1st, ProBox TV is at Live Casino Hotel Maryland in Hanover with the DMV's best fighters in their toughest tests. In the main event, as undefeated Nahir Albright goes to war with Maryland's own, once beaten, Kobe Abridi. Then, in the co-main event, fan favorite Francois Scarborough Jr. of Maryland will trade bombs with Central American slugger Maxwell Montes.